guest says Trump's comments are brilliant. Roger Stone is a former Trump campaign advisor who played a key role in the election of Republican presidents. From Ronald Reagan to George W. Bush. Welcome, Roger. Good to have you here.
Thanks to Beat for having me here.
All right. So why is this such a good play in your view?
Well, because Trump is completely in sync with voters. First of all, I think it is unfair to bastardize his proposal. He proposes a temporary ban on Muslim immigration until our representatives can get their hands around how to vet and screen all these people who would come to the United States. He has never called for a permanent ban on all Muslims migrating to the United States. But that is what his opponents are slamming. There is no constitutional question here, Carly Fiorina. The President of the United States absolutely has this authority. Jimmy Carter banned Iranian immigration during the Iran hostage crisis. No one called him a bigot or a racist. Republican primary voters agree with Trump on this. Two-thirds of the people in a Bloomberg poll yesterday, the methodology of which I had time to study and I believe is accurate, support that view. I haven't had a chance to look at this Wall Street Journal poll to examine how they asked the question and the order that they asked the question in, so I can't comment on it at this time.
You know, but you understand, Roger. I mean, the reason why this has so many people concerned is that you're talking about a religion. Now, yesterday, General McInerney was on the program, and he agrees with you. He actually said that he thought this was a sensible move and the right one by Donald Trump because, in other words, he said the Muslim religion, the Islamic faith, has been so politicized at this point that, you know, you've got to confront the reality that we're dealing with an enemy. But let me ask you this, Roger, is he really saying anything terribly different than everyone else is saying? I mean, Rand Paul on just earlier this week with me essentially saying we need a moratorium. We need to put all of this visa, programs on hold essentially until we can really vet people. We can't bring refugees in until we can really vet them. Is he saying the same thing, Donald, that everyone else is? He's just maybe just not packaging it quite as politically correctly?
In all honesty, I think NBC is at fault here because they truncated what he proposed. He said, I favor a total and complete ban on Muslim immigration. And then he said, until our representatives can get their hands around what's going on. NBC cut the second half of that off, puts it out as a partial. Everybody overreacts to it saying, oh, my God, he's called for a ban on Muslims for all time. Look, Muslims and Islam is the only religion that requires members of that religion to kill anyone who disagrees with them. Christianity, Judaism, Buddhism, those religions do not call for that. Well, so we're dealing with something very special here. Look, the Quran is very clear.
We've got a gentleman coming on the show shortly, an American Muslim, who's calling on the Islamic community to really talk about this issue and refute some of this stuff and demand that their religion change. But, Roger, let me ask you about this chatter about an independent Donald Trump. You used to run his campaign. What's the likelihood of that in your view?
It's totally up to the Republican Party. Look, he's the front runner, so I don't know why anyone's asking him if he would bolt the party. If he is kept out of the debates, if he is kept off the ballot in some states, the primary in some states where the Republican Secretary of State has the authority to do that, if there is a move in New York fostered by the Republican establishment to somehow throw him out of the party as if he has said something that is contrary to the party rules, then sure, he might run as an independent. He has the name ID. He certainly has the money. He has the infrastructure. And you know what would happen? The Republican Party would run third in that election.
Well,
but he's the front runner.
But he
I don't think
win,
he has any
right?
point.
I mean, Roger, how's he going to win if he runs as an independent?
It would be very difficult to win a three-way race, but the Republicans would be draining Trump. Trump wouldn't be draining the Republicans. That's not his preference. I think he's made that clear. He's the easy front runner in the Republican Party. I don't know why anyone's asking this question. But if they cheat him, if they try to cook the rules like they did to Dr. Ron Paul 4 years ago, then it's certainly an option that he should consider.
Roger, how much of this rhetoric that we hear from Donald Trump is really impromptu, and how much of it is somewhat methodically thought out? You know, I've made the point that you don't get to be a billionaire by just shooting entirely from the hip. I mean, there's an element of that, but you've got to have some pretty good instincts, and you've got to think through some of those instincts before you actually act on them. Given your proximity to him, having run his campaign, how would you characterize how he's approaching all of this right now?
Donald Trump is very genuine. In other words, he's not talking off some expensive polling or focus groups or talking points that were developed by an issue advisory committee. When Trump speaks, he speaks from the heart. He is unhandled. He is unscripted. He is uncoached. No one puts words in Donald Trump's mouth, and I've known him literally 40 years and have worked on and off for him proudly in that time period.
But he's thinking about it, right? I mean, he spends time thinking through these things before he actually comes out and says them.
I think that's very clear. Look, I think this is a masterful move. He is dominating the dialogue. If you turned on television or radio or cable yesterday, you saw a discussion of what Donald Trump had proposed. Now, I do think he has to make people understand exactly what it was he proposed, which is not an all-out forever ban against Muslim immigration, but a temporary freeze until we can figure out who these 100,000 Syrian refugees who want to come into our country are and determine if any of them are terrorists or have a criminal record.
Roger Stone, thank you, sir. Good to have you here.
Thank you.